Hey everyone, it's Sherry with Squatchable. The report we're going to talk about today comes from New York State, and it features something that some people would say is a variation of Bigfoot. Others would call it a wood devil, but all I know is this report has hands down the creepiest looking witness drawing I think I've ever seen. Ugh. Wait till you see this. So the report we're talking about tonight is from the BFRO, report number 2405. This report happened in upstate New York on the eastern border at Lake George. Lake George is right alongside, well, a little bit off from Vermont, and it's a little south from Lake Champlain, and it's right next to Adirondack Park, which happens to be the largest publicly protected land in the contiguous U.S. This place is huge. It has a lot of wilderness areas. It has a lot of isolated, the kind of rocky regions. It's got a lot of different little ecosystems going on there. So it's an interesting area. It's huge. It's a place that something could possibly hide at if it wanted to. This report was sent into the BFRO by a gentleman who was out canoeing with his brother on Lake George. So Lake George is in Warren County. Warren County is actually pretty active with Bigfoot reports. In total on BFRO, they have 13 reports. 3 of those are Class A sightings. All the rest of them are Class B sightings. The witness who sent in this report was out canoeing on Lake George with his brother. They were both in their 30s at the time, and the location they were at was an area called Deer Leap. And this area is a rocky, cliffy kind of area, forest all around there. It's really a pretty area. So at the point that they started to have their encounter, they were about 200 feet out. And this is what it says in the report. As we were beginning to come onto this area, we saw something standing on shore. It was brownish in color and standing straight up with its arms at its sides. It was about the size of a small man and very thin. Its body was facing south, looking down the shoreline, when it suddenly turned its head directly towards us and looked very intently. We whispered to each other and watched it while it watched us. We were 2 grown men paddling parallel to the shore and about 200 feet out, but we could not summon up the courage to go in closer. This thing had a strange look, almost a crazed grin, like a giant lemur. The sun was set now as we continued to watch it in the shadows of the mountain. As it was standing next to an old dead pine tree, it turned and climbed, sloth-like, up the tree about 20 feet to the first and only large limb and onto the crook of the branch. We paddled back around, and as we approached, it again cocked its head directly at us. After a minute or so, it turned its face downward into its body, and it became as if it were a part of the tree, just a lump on the crook of the branch. You would not know it's there unless you saw it move. And on this report, BFRO investigator Kevin Withers did a follow-up with the witness, and he says the witness described the animal as about 5 feet tall and extremely skinny, like a teenage boy, and it appeared to be covered with reddish-brown hair and had a pale face, expressive eyes and mouth, and a deranged smile or smirk on its face. Unlike a bear, its arms were long and it lacked a pronounced snout. The witness supplied these 2 drawings. Deranged, I think, is an accurate description of this. Look at this creature. It's got a little bit of a point up on the top of the head, right there. Its face, yeah, it doesn't quite have usually what you would be saying Bigfoot looks like, but it's, look at that. That's like a Joker smile right there. If you don't know what Joker is, look at this. You see how it just appears to go up like that, and at Halloween some people like to kind of do that really big extended smile. That's what this looks like it's got going on there. And its eyes look like they're kind of recessed back to where there's some definite shadows there. Long spindly arms and hands. I think, getting up close to that photo, or to that drawing, I don't want to meet that in the woods. There's a lot of things I want to meet in the woods, but that is not one of them. So the follow-up report goes on to say, once the witnesses had passed the animal and turned their canoe around, it had already begun climbing the tree. It was 10 feet up the trunk near the lowest branch, moving slowly like a sloth. It crawled onto the branch and moved its head to look at them again. Then it tucked its chin down into its chest and appeared to blend in with the reddish-brown bark on the tree. The witness said that once it blended into the tree, the shape didn't have any definition to it. The witness described it again in writing, saying, as soon as it put its head down into its underbelly, it looked like a large bump on the branch. If you hadn't seen it move its head, you would not know it was anything but a large branch. When it bent over on the branch, blending in with the bark on the tree, its fur had a pine bark look too. And it also says that the witness's brother was contacted and he corroborated his brother's story, although his recollection of the sighting was not as detailed. The report also mentioned that the witness claimed 2 girls had seen a creature they called Monkey Boy in the same area some years later. This report was submitted to the BFRO in 2001, and in 2009, 8 years later, the BFRO received an email from a person who said they believed their girlfriend was one of the Monkey Boy witnesses. The email the BFRO received said, "My girlfriend told me of an experience she had at Lake George 11 years ago when she saw a Monkey Boy at Lake George." Her physical description is downright identical to the one provided by the witnesses in number 2405. She saw the picture in the report and said, "That's him." The one difference is that she remembers the animal having a short tail. So in this report, the witness did mention about doing some research and had seen reports of the wood devil in their area. Actually, most of the reports I was finding seems to be coming from New Hampshire, but New Hampshire, White Mountain region, where those are supposedly coming out of, is about 97 miles away as the crow flies, so even though it's technically 2 states over, it's really not that far. Those states up there in the Northeast are just all jammed together like sardines in a can. It's easy to see how maybe a cryptid in one region could be in multiple states. So I'm not too worried about the fact that most of the reports were coming out of the New Hampshire region. In this report here, he says it was reddish brown. In the reports that I saw out of the New Hampshire area, they were talking about a more of a gray color to the creature, but other than that, the rest of the description sounds very similar. They talk about it being tall, skinny, and a face not like a human's at all. This here, this does not resemble a human to me. Yeah, it's not quite human-like. In fact, the witness had kind of described it as looking like a lemur, and I kind of got to agree. I mean, some of these lemur faces, when you get a close look at it, they kind of have a bit of that deranged look going on, especially these ones here. Sorry, can't help it, they're cute. Another difference that I saw between the report that this witness gave and some of the wood devil reports is that with the wood devil reports, they talk about this being a very fast creature. Also, it sounds like it tends to stay on the ground, and as you're walking around the tree, it kind of moves around the tree, so that way it's always behind the tree, kind of like what you see in those cartoons where you got the creature, or got the little cartoon character just do moving around. So it sounds like that's more of the typical behavior of the wood devil reports that are coming from New Hampshire. Now, this one moved up to the tree and it was described as sloth-like. So it got up there and then it blended in with the tree instead of trying to move itself around the tree. So that was another difference there. Also, the wood devil reports in New Hampshire, I didn't see any that mentioned about a tail at all, but the girl that's had the sighting, calling it Monkey Boy, said that there was a short tail. Looking at what this person saw here, maybe there's a possibility that there's a short tail kind of being tucked behind this derriere here that maybe the original witness didn't see. But if it's a short tail, it doesn't sound like it would be one that would be used for climbing anyways, so I would expect that it probably remain hidden, or if it goes out, it's kind of a signaling device or a mating attraction kind of device. So with it being a short tail, I would expect that it probably could just keep it tucked down and hidden instead of putting it out like a signal or a flag. So what do you guys think of this report? Honestly, like I said, this is creepy. I don't want to meet this in the woods. And this just doesn't look the same as a lot of the Bigfoot reports that have been coming out there. But, it could just be, a different group of Bigfoots, because they do talk about them being 7 foot tall. This one in particular was said to be about 5 feet tall, but the reports of the wood devils do talk about 7 feet tall. That's decently tall. It's taller than most humans. So do you think that this is just a kind of a subspecies of Bigfoot? And what do you guys think about the girl's sighting that came a few years later that describes pretty much the same creature but has a tail? Do you think it's the same creature, maybe a different one, maybe a different individual within a group in the area? I don't know, there's quite a few possibilities. Have any of you ever been to this area? I mean, have you seen a creature like this out there? Is it a creepy area? Is it an area that could handle a population of Bigfoots or wood devils out there? I have not been out there myself, and so I have to kind of look at the images and the descriptions, and it looks like it could. But then again, though, I do know that out there it's a lot of old forest where there are people that are living out there too. The Adirondack Park is massive, and so I don't know how much human habitation is happening out there, but do you think that something like this could be hanging out there, waiting for unsuspecting canoers and girls to witness it? And what do you guys think about this drawing? I mean, like I said, this is creepy. You're gonna be looking at this in your nightmares. Well, let us know in the comments, and I'll see you there.